Hey, what's going on, guys? Matt Hatter representing for DA Dangerously Active League, and I want to give a guide of my perspective of a power troll. For me, just in my opinion, pretty much a power troll, just what it says it is. You know, a troll that gives power to the group, especially your healers and your tanks, just for tanks to keep tanking. For healers to keep healing, and of course DPSs to keep abusing their abilities to their fullest potential, except for pricks, because a lot of good pricks out there. But just to start off, we'll go with our stats. So for me, I use 1 into focus just for the 25% power regeneration back. I'm not a fan of hybrid. You could of course get the 5% vitalization, but dealing with all the colas, the power, and all the other good stuff that you have, you really don't need it. So I stay away from it. You can always test it out, but I'm good with the 25% power regeneration back. Also skill points into your critical power chance, 20% of your critical power magnitude. And of course, all your skill points built up into your vitalization. The more you vite, the higher the blue ticks of your numbers. And the remainder I put into might and power. And just for the requirements for the for any current DLC, I will raise up the dominance up just for requirements. So I try to get at least 500 plus higher than what it recommended. But again, that's just a preference for me. I just try to keep it even. Alright, for iconics, nothing really there. In acrobatics, of course, you put 1 skill point in your movement mode. For the second row, it really doesn't matter. For the next one, I do the 10% and 10% for stun and impulse resistance. Just to bring it down here for the stun and recovery and the breakout mastery. This is an option if you only have extra skill points to use. It's not recommended too much, but if you want that little in your game every time you do a breakout as such to get the little power back, this is the main reason why for me. Alright, backing out. Now we're gonna go to the loadouts. For me, from left to right, I use my anomalies, a great stun. So also healing debuff. Defense debuff is also a stun. Warp Barrage is a damage buff on the bosses or the ads, but it's not a stun. But it does do a nice little damage on them. Extortion, just for the power back to your group and yourself. Quantum Tunnel, a little get out of jail free card. It's a shield, but when you use it, you pretty much, as it says, you quantum tunnel to any direction that you choose to. And Event Horizon, a great supercharge, a great power back. Just for shits and giggles, you can use, where is it? It's iconics. You can use Word of Power as a power back to the group. But again, dealing with the most raids that we've been having so far, shielding plus power back to the group is as a staple. But if you just want to play around with it, just say if you're in some low content raids, or at least that you know you can get run through it without using that much of shielding, you know, have fun with it. Each his own. But definitely Event Horizon is a big staple. Now we're gonna go to the gear, because that helps with your stats. For me, I use brawling, but it's an optional. I'll do a video on that on options for weapons. But again, if you don't have the skill points, I recommend just a few, but we'll talk about that later. But for me, I use weapon brawling, weapon mastery. Of course, all your gear is controller. I have to say that a lot of people have it mix and match in most groups that I ran with, which doesn't make any sense. Controller, I use my supercharge Event Horizon for 5% supercharge back. I use my replenisher for 5% of critical power chance for every 6 seconds. Your back is really nothing there for power, but just for as certain bosses that try to overwhelm you, this will actually knock them back for a little bit. For my chest, supercharge again for another 5% back, so keep getting the supercharge as fast as you can. Your legs, nothing really there. It's optional for yourself depending on what type of troll that you are. For your feet, nothing for the power, but again for me it's an option as a staple for terminal mastery. For your waist, nothing. For your hands, this is optional for me for the channeling. I saw it just because I saw the extra 5% defense and toughness, so I just went ahead and got it. But normally I would use the other one for the shielding to give you a little bit health back. And shoulders and face, nothing there. For me, again, we're talking about power back, so we're gonna okay, for power back we're gonna have a conversation with this one here. With your sidekick, if anybody did not know, it actually gives back power, it gives you a shield, and it also heals you. So once in a blue I will alternate it, or I just pop both of my trinkets just cuz, but I normally alternate one at a time, and I'll explain why. Because if you pop this one, it gives you a little power back, gives you shielding, give you a little shield once or maybe twice, definitely heals you. Then once the cooldown of that, let's see, a quarter or half of it, I'll pop my sea urchins. I nickname it Squiggy. Go Squiggy. Gives me a raise of stats for 246 vitalization, plus it attacks and it gives power back to yourself, so it's very helpful. I think it does like a good 2 times. It's rare, but it definitely gives you power back and attack, so that's a plus. And of course the staple for every group member that has it. If you don't, you need it. At my supply drop, that comes in many forms. If I had the crystal, just in case if I chose to go into one of the ultimate other raids to get you out the mind control, that's a big thing. But for this one, you drop the supply drop, it gives a buff to the group plus yourself, but it instantly gives you a full bar of your health and power, so that's a staple. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more than welcome to test it out. I have in the past, and I don't know with the updates if they did changed it, but normally when somebody drops a supply drop before I drop mine, and I'm like 50% or less than 75% of my power, definitely my health, I run straight through it, get a full bar. I'll do like a half moon circle run around as I'm dumping power and using power. I run straight back instantly and again, and I get a full refresher of my power. Seen it happen more than once. I think I've done it like maybe 3 times, but the max is like you get one freebie, then you go back get the second one again. Okay. And for this one right here, it's definitely a staple. It does not take that long to rank this up. I just did last night. I had it ranked up twice before when it first was introduced, and I went ahead and salvaged it. I think I was ranking up an artifact or such. I don't really recall, but last night I had all the stuff that I was saving up for last content. Had all my nymph medals I mostly farmed for, like, you know, like a good week or 2, or let's say 3 from all 3 of my tombs, and I'll pile them onto one item, and that's pretty much the gist of it with this one. So, and when you're farming, you get all your little marks and stuff to actually buy the mates. Is really not that hard. The only thing pretty much may come out of pocket is when you're purchasing the mates to rank it up with. So, and that's probably like what, $4 or $5, but normally you get these what's the shield seal of replenishing. You can buy the rest. But yeah, this is definitely a staple because, again, just like a regular cola, you get all the stats here for the rest of the group to help out with them and yourself. You don't, when you pop it once, you don't have to go ahead, you don't have to get another cola just like you have to do another one. You don't run out of it. Plus, if you're purchasing your colas, you know, it's not very wasteful, so you're not wasting money, and that's a plus. And speaking of colas, we have here Vitalization Cola just for the buffs. So you get another increase of your stats for 648 or whatever the content it is. So right now I have the current one, so plus whatever my stats is. Let's say, where is it? So I'm at 31,735, and I pop my, let's say my sea urchin, get that 246 up. Now it's at 32,201, and I pop my cola, which I already did, so that raised it up. Apologize for that. And then we'll go to, and just for heads up, again, people don't know, most people don't read it or don't pay attention to it, but you pop the cola, and if you die, you have to come back and pop the cola again. So if you're in mid raid and you die once, if it's elite you die twice, you're out for good. But if you're in regular anything and you die and somebody picks you back up and you just have this on, you don't have to go back and pop it all over again. But if you're just the type of person just have it in your arsenal just like this, you can pop it, and then be mindful of just keeping bottles of the cola of, hey, let me just keep popping this instead of going back to this. All right, now for the next one, you have your compound omega. If you read the stats, it's self-explanatory. 5% of everything, which you cannot go wrong with that. Definitely your vite, definitely your dominance. It lasts for 30 minutes. If you die, it still will be in your system, so that is a plus. So right now we're at the 31, since I sea urchin just went dumb down. So we're at 31,735. I'm gonna pop our compound, get that 5% raised a little bit, and we're at 32,793. Now if we had the sea urchin, pop that again, it would be raised up a little bit more. All right, now we're gonna go talk about my personal preference for the artifacts, because I've seen a few out there that have their own. So we're gonna take it to the watchtower. All right, so here are for artifacts. Now for me, for the artifacts, we're gonna run them down of what I don't like. Now for this one, for the controller, check this out before. It's not a great one. You can definitely read and check the stats on it. Go a little bit further down for the controller for this one. This one was a nice one for the last, was it the second to last content for Birds of Prey. It was good. League mate of mine had checked it out and was comparing the stats on it and abilities. It's not really that, to me. I still find it very useful just to stick to what I have, so it's not a big complaint of it. But if you just want for the stats and you're just sticking just for the power, this will be a way to go. If you already paid for it, it's not broke, so don't fix it. What's next? Oh, this one right here. Seen a troll use this one before, and I understand why. Number one is for anything, it does raise up your stats, but it's not focused on the troll that much. The one that sticks straight out is the power heal critical, applying to power over time. So you get the criticals every time, but the criticals is not that high, so I really won't even stick with it. So again, you're trying to just focus on, especially if you're just sticking for being a power troll. And going down the list, not a fan of the Philosopher's Stone. Definitely not a fan. That's for both trolls. And we have here is the Ring of Arzor. When it first came out, it was cute, but it's not all that. Again, just read the group. Using the group power, it pretty much feels like it's just for a tank, which is not a bad thing if you have that type of group. And right now, with how DC Universe players is now, pretty much everybody is for themselves or more focused on the burn of a DPS. They're not focused on the actual teamwork or support roles as much. Everybody's focused on the solo tanking or the solo healing or the DPS to get the maximum burn, which is not a bad thing if that's the group that you're fixed on to work out for, the certain groups that you're doing, especially when it comes to elites. But if you're using stuff like this, it's very helpful for a tank. So Controllers beware. If you want to use it, fine. You get the stats. Every time you use a group heal, grants you and your group up to 7 members equal to 12, 16, 18, 20 of your vitalization. So it can be a little bit handy, but me personally, we're sticking toward the power trolling of it all, so I would not use that. And going down the list, and that's pretty much it from there. But here's one, the Megahedron, I had skipped over but did not forget. If you're just focusing on full stats, full power, this is the way to go. Definitely your Megahedron. It raises up your bar. So let's say, for example, every time you use a power, and let's say right now I'm at 32,793, and if I use a power, it increases for 25 to 75%. And what it says is just a bar. So once you're filling up, the bar get raised up. So it might be 3,500, 3,800, 4,100 vitalization. So that's a plus. That's every time you're using your power, your bar extends for you to fill up the bar with your vitalization. If that makes any sense. If not, correct me wrong. I don't mind being corrected. We're good to go. So if you're just sticking on your stats, your Megahedron would be a good staple just for the stats of vitalization, the power bar filled up, and that's pretty much what goes from there. For me personally, this is what I use. But before I forget, let me look at this one real quick. Cannot forget Old Faithful. Okay, the Amulet of Ra is definitely a great troll artifact. If you can read it yourself, every time you use a controller buff, it gets stronger for 20, 30, 40, 50% stronger. Hit up to 1, 2, 4, and 7 of your of enemies, which is fine. No complaints there, especially when you got DPS that's using a lot of AoE attacks and got great burn, one at a time getting burnt out, or just the boss and ads. That is very great. Me personally, with the amount of burn that I've seen with the DPSs now, and maybe half their loadouts is pretty much just all splash damages and a huge AoE burst. This I'll pretty much just put on the side. I mean, it's great. Never gonna complain about this, because if it's up to me, it'd have been the Amulet of Ra swapped out for the scrap, and then it'd have been the Parasite and the Eye Gemini, or just the scrapped, the artifact, and the Amulet of Ra. Those have been the main 3 right there. So it's a great, plus it raises your stats up as a troll, along with the Parasite of Power. Again, you can't go wrong with that. But for me, my personal preference, I use a scrap just to help my supercharge get built up faster. I got the extra power in my stats. Working on it to get to 160, 200. It's DC Universe, so I'm not going to waste that much money on it. The Parasite, definitely a staple. It's just straight to the all stats, and if you can see here in the description itself, hit an enemy with a controller buff grants you and up to 7 group members power equal to 6, 8, 9, and 10% of your vitalization, and the prick equal to 1 to 1.67 of your vitalization. So you can't go wrong with that. All right, and for third down the list, I use Eye Gemini. I got well, I'm not gonna say a complaint, because I really don't care. I really don't, because if my job is to give power, if my job is to get the superchargers going, if my job is to do the quick pickups, to know the mechanics, and nobody's lacking power, and CC is on point, especially when a tank is because you got some picky tanks, so some tanks don't stun the ass, so you have to pretty much watch the gameplay of certain tanks and how the mechanics of the game is with the raise and alert, so you pretty much can pick how and understand how a tank tanks. Okay, that's key. So you really don't just stun to be stunning, especially if a tank trying to pull. You're fighting the tank, so let him pull, you stun, help him with the CCing. That gives the tank some free time to to do his job along with the DPS, especially if the ads club together. The burn is lovely for them. They love that stuff. But for the Gemini, this is a staple for me because I got my scrap. I'm getting the supercharge up faster. I already have my stats with my vitalization, giving power back to the group. I can't complain about that. And then if you read here in the description where I had most people make a complaint, well, made some comments. Hey Hatter, why you got this? And I'll tell you why. If you read down below, well, let's start it down up from top to bottom. If a healer has it, you step into it, your stats is raised up, plus you get an increase, correct? Correct. If a DPS pops this bad boy and you stand in it, you get the increase of stats plus everything else, correct? Okay, correct. For myself, if I pop it, which it says here because it's for damage or troll roll, I get it restores 2% of power every second. I enjoy that. So again, this is another option for the power trolls out there. So this is why I use it. Now, if I had it raised up at the bottom, if you see here, if I had it raised up to where I get the full one, I'll say right now I'm at 139, so we'll say 140, 160, or maybe 200 to get it up to the 5%. For myself, every time I activate it, when I'm standing in it, after that one more time, standing in it, I will get the increase of 5% of vitalization for myself. If a DPS is standing in it, he will get the 5% of might and prick. So why not? If I'm a troll and I'm helping myself out, because that's number one, I'm giving myself 2% of power every 2 seconds. And I rank this bad boy up and I give myself the extra 5% of vitalization. And it so happens the DPS is right there with me. He or she's gonna get the extra 5% on top of the extra 5% with the healer, on top of somebody else's center. It stacks up like that. Okay, it keeps the burn going. So why not? Why not? So just to kill that one, because that's like the most annoying thing. Well, I'm not gonna say too annoying because I heard it previously 3 times. Because if you do a good job, you get somebody to inspect you. If you, I'm not gonna say I don't, but if you're not doing anything, you come into a great elite group that people are in asking for help, that you're stuck in for 45, 75, over 100 minutes, over 2 hours, and you come in to help them out, and the first thing you do, and I get it, it's elite, you want to figure out who's who. But this, to me, this is definitely a staple when it comes to the artifacts for trolls. Again, if you want to swap out the scrap for the Amulet Row, just for the extra stats and to get the multiple buffs, fine, no problem. If you want to swap it out for Gemini, hey, fine, no problem for the extra stats. Go ahead. But the Amulet Row versus the Gemini, to me, you just can't beat it. You get the 2%, you get the 5% extra stats for you or whoever's in there. The Pars Hansen again for the stats plus the extra power back for you in the group. You can't beat that. Scrap. Again, this, if it was ranked up, which is not, an extra 3% there, extra what, 2.5%. No big deal. You can't beat that. So this is my combination for my artifact, and like I said, the proof is in the pudding. Okay, so if you got my fellow power trolls out there, not my buff trolls, but if you got my power trolls out there, please let me know what are your nice artifacts, what artifacts you use for your troll. How do you set yourself up for your troll? Let me know, because I'm a big fan of a troll. I've been a troll since the beginning of the game. I'm always watching and other trolls, see how they do in par. PCE is definitely like one of my favorite elite raids out there, because it sets the bar for troll stats, because trolls needed back in the day, like really needed. And now it's like majority of most trolls just think it's, oh, trolling easy, just sit there. No, you just don't sit there, just don't dump power. You need to be on your A game, you need to be on the pickups, you need to know the mechanics, you need to know when to pop your group shields. Like for example, the current content, if the tanks needed, the ads come up, pop your group shielding for yourself, excuse me, definitely for yourself, but definitely for the tank that can get the to get the extra protection when you need it for the ads. Definitely for the group, so just in case of a tank may or may not miss or see the ads, you know, little stuff like that, you know, so it helps out. So but definitely power trolls, let me know what you think. Every time I keep seeing a lot of buff trolls being axed, and I understand, but at the same time I don't. So it seems like we're a dying breed. So other than that, thank you, definitely appreciate it. And power trolls, let me know, let me hear your voice, let me hear the opinion.